Hello and welcome to Drishti News. My name is Neil, and the topic which we are going to discuss is the office of CDS in light of the tragedy which happened yesterday and what will be the way ahead. This is how we are going to proceed with the discussion. We will discuss the news of the tragedy that was afflicted on our country yesterday. We will discuss about the office of the CDS, the responsibilities which are associated with that office. We will discuss the ways in which a successor to this office can be chosen. We will also know something about the helicopter that crashed. We will know something about previous such mishaps, and then we will try to reach a conclusion, and then you will have a question to practice your answer writing on. First of all, this is how the news came. Initially, the news came that a serious mishap has happened, and the worst fears came out to be true when the news finally came that General Bipin Rawat, the CDS, has also died in the chopper crash. Now, first of all, let us know how this office came into being. This office, the recommendations of Shri K. Subramaniam Committee way back in 1999 talked of an office of Chief of Defence Staff. Why? Because in light of the Kargil fiasco, the way the intruders could get into the territory of Kashmir and the way a response was slightly delayed, so the committee recommended that there should be improved decision making in the defence matters. There should be better coordination. And since then, since 1999, thereafter, the considerations were on, and finally, it was decided that there will be an office of Chief of Defence Staff. So, it was on 24th December 2019 that the Cabinet Committee on Security, we will discuss the details about Cabinet Committee on Security later. We should note that there are 8 such committees now. Out of them, 7 are headed by the Prime Minister. One, the Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs, is the only committee that is not headed by the Prime Minister. So, one of such committees, Cabinet Committee on Security Affairs, decided that Mr. or General Bipin Rawat will be appointed to Chief of Defence Staff to enhance the quality of military advice to political leadership through integration of service inputs. So, what were the two or the dual-hatted role? Why it was called a dual-hatted role? Because it also had a military component but also bureaucratic component. How it was a bureaucratic component? See, the Chief of Defence Staff was to act as permanent chairman of Chief of Staff's Committee, which basically comprises of the 3 service chiefs as well, that is the Service Chief of Army, the Service Chief of Navy and the Service Chief of the Air Force. So, that is the military role. But at the same time, he is also to act as the Secretary of Department of Military Affairs, which is primarily a bureaucratic role. Similar work is basically done by the Defence Secretary, who is an officer of the civil service bureaucracy. So, that is why it is called a dual-hatted role. Also, the Chief of Defence Staff is to act as principal advisor to Defence Minister of India on all matters related to the forces. So, these were the roles, or these are the roles of the office of Chief of Defence Staff. But now, what are the problems in light of this great tragedy? The problems are that unlike so many other offices of military, no immediate line of succession is there for the office of CDS. CDS is because, and why this confusion is there? Because CDS also is a military officer and also a bureaucrat like a secretary. So, there is no clear line of succession, and appointment is to be made by political leadership. We discussed that the appointment is made by Cabinet Committee Security Matters. So, the appointment is more like that of a secretary rather than a service chief. Also, why? Because, for example, Mr. Bipin Rawat, he was not in active military service. He had retired from the post of Chief of Army. So, also there is no deputy to the CDS. There is no deputy to the Chief of Defence Staff. Now, the thing is that if we look at the possible options before the Government of India, General M.M. Narwane is the senior most among the 3 service chiefs, and he is said to be a prime contender for this office. Also, we should know that it is not that the government never thought that who can be in the line of succession to the post of CDS, to the office of CDS. Initially, it was thought that the chairman of integrated staff Integrated Defense Staff to the chairman COSC. So this office was called CISC. He was expected to be made Vice CDS, Vice Chief of Defense Staff. So it was to be Air Marshal B.R. Krishna, but that decision has not been made yet. So still there is no clarity on the line of succession. So we should keep in mind that an office like this deserves to have a clear line of thought, that in cases like these, or even in other cases, the person occupying that office can get afflicted by certain situations, like office of president has been afflicted by in past. So there is always a line of succession in such cases. When the president is not able to perform his duties or her duties, the line of succession decides that vice president can perform those duties. Similarly, there is a need to have a clear line of succession for such important office. Now moving on to this helicopter that crashed. This helicopter is a Russian helicopter. It is said to be one of the most modern modifications of Mi-8 or 17 helicopter series, and it is a part of Indian Air Force helicopter fleet, and it can perform both duties, that it can transport personnel as well as can also transport cargo. Similar kind of helicopter was struck in a friendly fire. Friendly fire means the fire by our own armed forces by mistake. So it was struck by a friendly fire and was gunned down during the air strikes at Balakot. So if we look at the previous mishaps, the last crash of Mi-17 V5 was reported in November this year itself in Arunachal Pradesh due to a technical snag. So this is also a problematic component, that this helicopter has been in news due to several wrong reasons of late. If you go way back into history, our polity, our military has suffered several such mishaps. Primarily from military point of view, we have been suffering such mishaps from 1952, then in 1963, then in 1993. The details are not very important, though they are gruesome and though they were all tragic. Then there was a mishap in 1997, 2001, and then most recently in 2019, apart from the one we discussed in 2021, Arunachal Pradesh. So what are the takeaways from this? First, government will take a call that who will be chosen to occupy this office again after this tragedy. Also, this decision will be taken by Cabinet Committee on Security. Who are the part of Cabinet Committee on Security? We said that out of 8 cabinet committees, 7 are headed by the Prime Minister. So this is also chaired by the Prime Minister, attended by Home Minister, Defense Minister, Finance Minister. Now there can be more attendees. There can be NSA, National Security Advisor. There can be Cabinet Secretary. In this particular meeting, NSA has also been invited. But the parts of Cabinet Committee on Security are, apart from PM, Home Minister, Defense Minister, Finance Minister. These are the permanent attendees of Cabinet Committee on Security. Now also there needs to be an investigation that why this kind of mishaps are happening so regularly, especially if similar kind of helicopters have been involved in them. Also, there is a need to up the maintenance, the routine checks and the safety measures involved with these helicopters, so that so many precious lives, so many important lives, so many lives which are so much important for the nation as well, are not lost such kind of accidents. Now there is a question for you. The question is, the role of the Chief of Defence Staff is much more than that of the coordinator of the 3 services. Evaluate the statement by mentioning the importance of the term CDS. So that was the news in news today. We will see you in the next episode tomorrow. Stay tuned.